kind of catch up with what different groups within Kansas are doing related to local food systems, and to be able to connect with each other so that we can just work together more and work together better, and just learn from each other, and hopefully support each other so that we can all support local food systems in Kansas. So today, here's our agenda on the screen so you can see what we're going to be covering. And I think we have great presentations today. I mean, every quarter I felt like we've had good presentations, but I really looked at the slides for this one and feel like we have some great ones today too. So we'll have Ryle Carver and Lauren Schomburg. Ryle's with the K-State Rural Grocery Initiative, and then Lauren Schomburg's with the Mid-America Regional Council. So they're going to talk about give us a recap of the Rural Grocery Summit, and then the Rural Grocery Convening that was also held after that. That was one of the requests on our evaluation from last quarter, was to have a recap of that. So we're offering that today and are excited to hear more about that. And Nick, I apologize, I'm probably going to say your name wrong. Nick Lewandowski, or did I say that okay?
You got it.
Okay,
Perfect.
good. You know, I have to admit, when I looked at it, it's like a lot of letters, but I just pronounced it like it's written, and it's okay.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Speaking as someone with the last name of Nwadi K, I should not say anything.
You get a gold star today, Londa.
Very good. So Nick is the new Kansas Farmers Union Executive Director. And so he introduced himself last quarter. And so we wanted to hear from him this time. So we're glad Nick's here. Then we have Tim Steffensmeyer with Kansas State University, and he'll introduce himself more, but he's with our engagement program at K-State. So we're really excited to have him talk about K-State 105 and local food systems, which K-State 105 is kind of a new initiative. And then we have our colleague from KU. So, you know, we always kind of joke, it's wonderful to work together with K-State and KU. You know, we won't talk about what happens on the athletic field and court, but it's great to have our partners with KU here today as well. Jenny Nemeth from the KU Center for Public Partnerships and Research, which as we've really appreciated working with them. So we wanted to have her share with everybody. So and then we'll have just a brief time where we can share about upcoming and ongoing grants, local food systems related grants. So I'll give a brief update, and then our colleagues from KDA will. If you have anything you'd like to share on like upcoming or ongoing local food systems related grants, you'll have that opportunity then as well. Then we'll have time for announcements of any local food systems initiatives and events coming up, and then our evaluation will be at the end. So with that, hopefully Ryle is on.
Yes, I'm here.
Great. And I saw Lauren was on earlier too. So I'm going to turn it over to Ryle. So thanks again, everybody, for coming, and thanks to all the presenters as well. So thanks, Ryle.
All right, thank you. So as Londa said, my name is Ryle Carver. I'm with the Rural Grocery Initiative, which is a unit out of K-State Research and Extension. We work across the state and the country. And one of the programs or events that we put on a biannual basis is the National Rural Grocery Summit. This summit had not happened since 2018 because of COVID-19. So the 2022 summit was really a reunion after 4 years. We hosted this in Wichita about a little over a month ago, and you can go to the next slide. It was a 2-day convening. We had a jam-packed schedule, over 240 attendees. I think in all told, we had probably about 215, 220 individuals in attendance that represented 35 states and Washington, D.C. So we were really pleased with the geographic representation. This included grocers, this included nonprofits, stakeholders, funders, rural community specialists, all sorts of people related to rural grocery, rural community vitality. Over 50 presentations that included 4 keynotes. We had 4 plenary sessions that covered grocery operations to policy to rural community life to some innovative grocery models. 5 breakout sessions with 3 different tracks, and those breakout sessions really ended up being very engaged, with a very engaged audience. There was time for Q&A, and really the feedback we've seen is that in each breakout session there were a lot of questions and a lot of engagement, which was exciting to see. In the evening, on the first day, we had a documentary screening that showcased a video produced by K-State faculty and students called The Hungry Heartland. And then we also had some opportunities for networking through our poster session. The full agenda as well as presentations are available on our website at ruralgrocery.org/summit/agenda. You can see the link there at the bottom. And then we can go to the next slide and just go through a few photos. Here's a view of one of the plenary sessions. On the first day, we had a full crowd at the Drury Plaza in Wichita. Next slide. Here's an example of a breakout session. And the last slide shows our networking opportunities. There really is a lot we could say about this, but I want to give Lauren a chance to share about an event that was happening in conjunction with the summit and really provided an overlapping and complementary experience. So go ahead, Lauren.
Perfect. Thanks, Ryle. And I attended the conference, and it was really great. We kind of piggybacked on the conference. So I'll start by introducing myself. I'm Lauren Schomburg. I work for Mid-America Regional Council, and I am the grocery store coordinator for the Double Up Food Bucks program. Double Up is a SNAP incentive program. So it's designed for people who are enrolled in the SNAP program. We work with various retailers across the state of Kansas and Missouri to basically offer an incentive on produce. So a customer purchases produce, they receive an additional credit to redeem on free fruits and vegetables on their next shopping trip. And I can pop my email into the chat if there's anybody on the call that is interested in learning more about the program. Feel free to reach out. So we receive federal funding to operate this program. It's through the GusNIP program through USDA NIFA. And so there are, programs across the country that are really similar to ours. And one of our focuses in our program is working with rural grocery stores. So we convened programs from around the state to kind of learn about how we work with rural grocery stores in Kansas to operate this program. So we attended the conference together, and then we kind of did a tour of the Double Up Food Bucks program in sort of like the Southeast Kansas corridor where we have a lot of our grocery store locations. So we had 19 practitioners from 13 states and DC, and we had different learning sessions on rural community partnerships, which can be really important in the success of SNAP incentive programs with rural grocery stores. We talked a lot about local sourcing. We do have a requirement in our program that our grocers we work with source local produce that is made available to the SNAP shoppers and of course all of their other shoppers. And then we talked a lot about technology. That's a big topic for the rural grocer, having technology to operate these kinds of programs, but also to stay competitive in a really tough market. Next slide. I was trying to click, sorry. So we had 4 days together. The first day we attended the summit, and then we kind of convened all of the practitioners to talk with some of our local funders here in Kansas. I see Jeff on the call. Thanks for being a speaker at that event. Just to kind of talk about, how funders look at rural food access and how maybe some of our, partners in other states can approach their funders with these kinds of subjects. So the second day we attended the summit, and then we visited Hired Man's Grocery and Grill right outside of Wichita. We had a great conversation about technology. And then we had some representatives from AWG to talk about their local sourcing program and how they sort of source regional and then deliver that produce to the grocery stores. Our third day, we had a really packed day. We went to Apple Market in Columbus, Kansas, where we talked a lot about those rural community partnerships. That town in particular has a Pathways grant. They also have a couple Double Up Food Bucks locations. So there's been a lot of community partnerships there to make our programs successful, but also sort of bolstering food access in that community. And then finally, we visited a produce warehouse in Kansas City, which was insane. I highly recommend visiting a produce warehouse if you ever get the chance. But we had some folks from CNC Produce talk about their relationships with local growers and how they procure that, bring it through their warehouse and then get it out to grocery stores across both states. And then finally, just wanted to share some reflections. Other states have really similar challenges to Kansas in supporting their rural grocery stores. We also got a lot of feedback that the partnerships here in Kansas were really impressive to some of the other practitioners. So I think that says a lot about the work that you all do here. We do have grocers that are really interested in more resources to help them source local. And then just a few tension points that came up, first, shoppers sometimes feel torn between shopping local, buying that local produce, but then also looking for the cheapest option, which sometimes could be a Walmart or big box store. And then we had some discussion about how to make rural food access conversations more inclusive. That's all I have. Thanks for having me.
Great. Thank you so much, Lauren and Ryle. And if you guys can put your emails in the chat, that'd be great. Then people can email you if you have questions. Hopefully we'll have some time for questions at the end, but we do want to keep moving to our other presenters today too. This is always the challenge with organizing this. Like, we want to give everybody lots of time to speak, but we also want to have lots of people speak. So so we have to try to balance that. So but like I said, we'll go on to our next speaker, and please feel free to chat with them if you have questions too. So Nick, and now I don't have the spelling in front of me, so I'm going to, Lewandowski is going to be our next speaker. And again, we're glad to have Nick with us on today. So go ahead, Nick.
Thanks, Londa. Thank you very much. And it's good to be with all of you here today. As Londa said earlier, I am the new executive director for the Kansas Farmers Union. Started up on June 1, so we're almost 2 whole months into this. So it's exciting to be back in Kansas. I'm a Republic County native, grew up on a farm near Republic, Kansas, got my start with Farmers Union here in Kansas, and made my way up to Wisconsin to work for them for a while at Farmers Union, out to Denver for Rocky Mountain Farmers Union, back to Wisconsin, and now back to Kansas. So I'm coming full circle, so to speak, or full triangle if you look at it on the map. But Kansas Farmers Union is the state's oldest active general farm organization. And we're not like a commodity organization that is truthfully representative of the commodity itself, like soybeans, corn, and that. We represent our members and the work that they do. And we work to protect and enhance their economic interests and the quality of life for family farmers and ranchers in rural communities. And we also represent our members who are engaged in diverse farming and ranching pursuits. It's not just cows, sows, and plows. We also have urban growers, and we have folks that are doing very unique things, specialty crops and livestock. But our main tenets of the organization are education, legislation, and cooperation. Next slide. So our policy is really important to us. That's what guides the organization. I like to say that it's almost like our Bible, so to speak. It's what we believe in. It's what we stand for as an organization. And that all comes from the grassroots. That comes from our members that belong to local chapters on the local and county level. We don't have chapters in every county in the state, but we have chapters scattered all across the state. And it's those issues that folks are seeing on those local levels, and even on a larger regional and even state and federal level that come to us from them. And then we debate those as an organization at our annual convention, which will be held this coming November 30th in Salina. But that's the great part of our organization. It's a small d democratic driven organization. Everything comes from the membership and it works its way to the top. So that local county chapter level, state level, and then the national level through our parent organization, National Farmers Union. I will also drop in the chat a link to our website so that you all can go there and check that out. Our policy document is listed there. Different things that you can learn more about our organization at that website. Next slide. I want to also highlight our wonderful relationship that we have with the Farmers Union Midwest Agency. This is one way that we bring in income to our organization through Farmers Union. It's through insurance, and we have a great relationship with agents all across the state of Kansas through FUMA, and they support their communities, and they offer a number of different services such as home and auto insurance, farm, business, health, umbrella, motorcycle, ATV, RV, watercraft, and also crop insurance. So if you're in the market for insurance, take a look at what our Farmers Union Midwest Agency could offer. Next slide. This is our team here at Kansas Farmers Union. We've got Mary Howell over here on membership and education. She's on the call today. And I goofed, poor Cammie, I either that or autocorrect named her Cammie Van Camper. It's Cammie Van Campen. She's our office manager. There's myself and our state president, Don Teskey. But I do want to quickly note, I should have said this back on the policy page, but we do have policy on food systems. And you'll note that sometimes our policy goes in depth and sometimes it's a little vague. But on our food systems policy, we say, we want to provide incentives for a more decentralized food system, processing and packing industries. So these are the kinds of things that we care about, and certainly we want to go in more in depth in this conversation, and we're glad to be a part of this group and other groups that are working on these issues. Just want to note that we will have a number of events coming up this fall and into the winter. We've got a fall fun tour series coming up, partnered up with the Kansas Farmer Veteran Coalition, a couple dates in September and October as well, where we will dig into some of these food systems and figure out how we can all work together to improve on them. So that's all I have, Londa.
Great. Thank you so much, Nick. That was great. And I'll say, yes, we've been partnering with Kansas Farmers Union in the area of produce safety, my particular area, for quite a few years now. It's been a great partnership. So we really do appreciate working with you. So thank you so much, Nick. And yes, with Nick also, if you have questions for Nick or would like to visit with him more, please feel free to reach out to him afterwards, and we'll keep going with our program today to keep us moving. But thank you so much, Nick. So our next speaker is Dr. Tim Steffensmeyer with the, and I apologize, I'm really bad at this. I should say the proper term, but I will let him give it. So he's with the K-State Office of Engagement, but he is going to speak to us about connecting to K-State 105. So thanks for joining us, Tim, and I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Londa, and appreciate entering this space and learning a fair amount about this network. So I'm here kind of representing both an office at K-State that you could think of as a resource to leverage what's happening on campus to community needs, and also a specific initiative that involves much more than the Office of Engagement called KS 105. And I'll detail that in the next slide. I'm not going to talk all through this, but the Office of Engagement here at K-State, it was formerly called the CECD, the Center for Engagement and Community Development. Some of you may have had a connection, especially with the rural grocery initiatives. And, you can think of that office like the metaphor of a front door. And if it was functioning, at full capacity, it would be a place where external stakeholders, communities, private, public sector folks could access the university in ways to leverage the kinds of talents and resources we have here, or access to certain things, and based on the needs of a particular stakeholder or community. Our services in particular are to be that matchmaker and also to help coordinate those activities. So convening people and holding those people together to execute on what they want. And then lastly, it's a bit of like a state relations piece of describing the impact of a land grant university as it's helping people make progress on their biggest challenges. So that's the big idea with the office. And engagement in its simplest form has something to do with reciprocity and mutual benefit. So it might be a little bit different than outreaching to folks and telling them what you have or fee for service, and more around a partnership. Next slide. One piece of this then, and there are other players beyond the Office of Engagement. I'm representing this today, but we have other folks on our campus who are deeply involved in this effort called Kansas 105. It's a Board of Regents mandate, and it is an effort to be an entrepreneurial and economic driver in all 105 counties. And Kansas State is not the only higher ed institution doing that work. The reason that it is branded KS 105 and it's launching here from the Board of Regents is because of our land grant mission and because of our extension system, of which many of you are a part of or are connected to. So because extension is in all 105 counties, we are growing and catalyzing it here. And we imagine and hope that it will have lots of connections with other higher ed institutions, in addition to the kinds of organizations that you all represent. Next slide. So the aspect of Kansas 105 that I think is most germane to this conversation, in some respects, it's trying to help streamline, along with other partners in the state, both government partners, institutions like Network Kansas, people that do an aspect of entrepreneurial or entrepreneurship building. It's trying to streamline that, and particularly the role that higher education can play in that, and either the resources or the training or the expertise that our campuses have across the state. So the title is Kansas 105, and the hope is that leveraging the resources of university, we could better help streamline the entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial activities across the state. Next slide. And so, this is through the lens of K-State. And you can imagine other campuses and areas having their own unique contribution, like our friends in Wichita State and the way that they drive innovation and industry. So the impact in part that we think this university can make is helping new and existing companies. And we think companies that don't want to only think of large companies that need lots of incentives and subsidies to move, say, a manufacturing plant. That's not what Kansas 105 is primarily about, and it's not what's going to make it successful. It's much more at a local or grassroots, definitely through the lens of entrepreneurship. The next slide. So there's sort of three kinds of strategies right now, and this is just lifting off the ground. So my guess is if we were to come back in a year or 2 years from now, I might be able to talk with more specificity about some of the tactics taken. But in terms of like the strategy level, I think there's three of those that K-State wants to be and is going to continue to be integrated in. The first is just the technical solutions for Kansas companies. So the degree that there's something that could be leveraged here to get business off the ground, that would be available. And so that's in that first bucket of technical solutions. And it's not that these things aren't already happening. It's that they're happening often in siloed ways, and they're not known or they're not accessed, particularly by people new to the space. So if you're a large company or you have experience in this, you probably know how to leverage a university like K-State or other higher ed institutions around the state. But for most of us, and most people stepping into the kind of the entrepreneurial space, particularly around ag and local food, that might not be so available to you. So the second then is just providing some support, and that support around entrepreneurship and new business creation. And then the last one has to do with workforce development. So to the degree that there are workforce development needs, the university either wants to partner or be a part of those solutions. So those are kind of like the three big buckets of work as we imagine those. And this initiative is just getting off the ground. I'll put in the link both a pretty skinny website where you can see very similar information that I just was given. And you're also going to see three other big strategies in addition to Kansas 105. So there's three large strategies about how the land grant could lead to the economic prosperity of the state. And it has four kind of planks. Kansas 105 is one of them. The reason I'm focusing on that primarily is because I think it's the one that's most germane to this conversation in this group right now. The other ones are kind of technical in ways that wouldn't apply. I think there's one more slide and then I'll be done. Yeah, so I just put that link if you're interested in what Kansas 105 stands for. I think a lot more information will be coming, and the invitation to partner or to have a conversation about this, particularly if you see the work you're doing or the people that you represent or work with, having any connection to how something like Kansas 105 could benefit them, I'd welcome that conversation, and more than likely we'll put you in contact with some of my colleagues here at K-State. Thanks again for giving me the space to visit.
Great. Thanks very much, Tim. I really appreciate it. I know I personally was interested to hear what you had to say, and I know that a lot of people on the call today will be really interested too. So thank you so much. And you know, at this point, we're planning to have these meetings once a quarter. So I'm sure we'd love to have you give an update again in the future as well, Tim. That'd be wonderful. So thank you again, Tim, for joining and your presentation. Really appreciate it. We're going to turn it over now to our colleague, Jenny Mehmet from KU. So speaking of working together with other universities, Tim just queued that up really well, how it makes a lot of sense for us all to work together in the best way that we can. So, and we were able to access, so our K-State Extension local foods team, which I'll talk about that grant in a minute, but we were able to access funds for a grant writer from this KU program, which was wonderful. It was really great to get her support and you know, her assistance in writing our grant. So we wanted to make sure to let everybody know about this opportunity that's available. So I'm going to turn it over to Jenny to share with us more about that. So thanks so much for joining, Jenny.
Sure. Hello, everybody. I will apologize in advance. I have a terrible head cold, so I don't normally sound quite this basso, but I'm really happy to be here today. So thank you all for including me, and I will try to be very brief. But my name is Jenny Mehmet, and I'm here representing the Center for Public Partnerships and Research at the University of Kansas. And I'm actually here, and I'm glad that Londa gave us a nice little introduction. I'm actually here to talk about this really incredible program that we have available through CPPR, which provides grant writing assistance for Kansas nonprofits. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide. And I just want to talk just really briefly about CPPR, just to put in context why we have this program and the work that we're doing at the university level. So CPPR is a research center at the University of Kansas, and the primary goal for CPPR is very simply to optimize the well-being of children, youth, and families across the state of Kansas. And so what CPPR does a lot of amazing things. The primary function of CPPR is really partnering with organizations across the state. Some of the things that we do include research and evaluation, social innovation, social change, some data science, futures thinking. Some of our partners across the state include the Children's Cabinet. We work with the Kansas Enrichment Network. We have a fairly large grant right now for the Preschool Development Grant. We do a program called Lemonade for Life, which provides, it gives training experience for anyone that wants to help families that have experienced adverse childhood experiences. And so we do a lot of really amazing things. And so you can go ahead and go to the next slide. But one of the things that we are able to do, very luckily, is thanks to some support from the Kansas Health Foundation. And I see that Jeff, who is our program officer, is on the call today. We are able to offer free grant writing and coaching and technical assistance to nonprofit state organizations and other entities across the state to help secure funding for a variety of projects. And really, I think for the bottom line for CPPR, again, with our goal being to optimize the lives of children, youth, and families, I think given this audience that obviously food safety, availability of healthy foods, affordability, that definitely falls into our purview. And so what we're able to do, you can go to the next slide, is how this really works is if you have a wonderful funding opportunity that is a federal grant or a private grant from a national philanthropic area that falls into one of KHF's priority areas. And I think, those are pretty broad, but include racial equity, civil engagement, criminal justice reform, and enhanced family support programming. And I think for the purposes of this group, there's several things that touch on many of those areas. But if you have a funding opportunity, let me know. You can contact me. My contact information is on one of the other slides. There's a KHF CPPR email address. You can either email me or email that email address. Let me know what the funding opportunity is, who the players are involved, and we will work together to ensure that there is alignment with the KHF priority areas and also with CPPR as well. And if approved, the partners will be matched with a grant writer. And it kind of depends. If there's an incredibly competitive grant, we may utilize a coaching support model. So that means that we may have one grant writer provide more of some oversight support, perhaps helping with templates, helping with developing, the need statement, et cetera, but not quite as detailed as providing really the one-on-one support. So we may, depending on what the grant is, what the funding opportunity is, we may utilize more of that coaching support model if there's more than one Kansas entity that might be interested in the funding. And I can speak to Londa's point that just back in May, their group applied for, and I have the USDA Regional Food Systems Partnership, and Stephanie Watson was one of our grant writers, and we have a bench, I guess, for lack of a better word, of grant writers that specialize in a variety of different areas. And so Stephanie was placed with the K-State Extension Group and provided grant writing support throughout the beginning, end, and middle of the process. And so we also just recently, not too long ago, found out that some targeted small grants program were funded. Our farms, Tecklenburg Farms, and Groundworks NRG were all funded through the support of some of our KHF funding. So you can go to the next slide. So as of July 2022, we've had over 20 proposals submitted through the funding that we have through KHF. We have over 15 Kansas partners, and there's over $30 million in awarded funding as a result of our partnerships and our efforts. So you can go to the next slide. And so if you want more information, this is my contact information. That is my cell phone number. Additionally, you can find more information about this program at the link listed there. If you're interested in finding more information just about CPPR in general and actually listening to this call today, I think there's a lot of really interesting opportunities for collaboration that I'm going to follow up on after this meeting today. And then that's the email address specifically for the KHF grant funding program. So please reach out. We are looking forward to partnerships. It's midway through the year. I know there's a lot of stuff that's going to hit probably this fall. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Let me know if you have any questions or if you have anything that looks promising. So I thank you all.
Great. Thank you so much, Jenny. And I just want to emphasize, I can't say enough good about the assistance that they were able to provide us in writing the grant that we submitted. We haven't heard yet. I'll have a slide on that in a minute. We haven't heard anything yet. So we're not sure, but that's great that Tecklenburg Farms was funded. That's wonderful. And so I think just a great example of a lot of people have talked about this today, the partnerships that we have across the state and all the great people working together. So it's great to be able to access, and we appreciate the Kansas Health Foundation's funding for this, definitely. So thanks to Jeff for that too. But just, yeah, it's a wonderful opportunity to have. And I think it's great that we can point to this here in Kansas, that we can do it together. So we're going to keep going. But again, if you have questions for Jenny, please reach out to her. Because I want to talk about grants. So we're going to keep moving on our agenda. But please, again, if you have questions for any of the speakers, please feel free to email them, and we might have time at the end for conversation as well, but we'll keep going. And there's our beloved, we'll just go past that slide. Is that okay, Jenny? The Jayhawk, sorry. Anyway, so thanks again to everybody for presenting today. So that concludes kind of the larger presentation time, but we did this last quarter, and I feel like this is, hopefully this is helpful to everyone to kind of know if there's some grants that people are trying to submit that they need some partners on, or kind of an update on what you've done related to grants. We thought this would be a good forum for that. So I'm gonna talk briefly about our grant, which there isn't much to report on, but and then we'll have our colleagues from KDA will speak after that a minute. And then if anybody else has something they'd like to share as well related to grants or grants that you're working on, please do that as well. So as we've talked about K-State Extension, again, we talked about it in May. It was right, or whenever our last call was, maybe that was April, sorry. At our last call, we were in the process of submitting this grant. It has been submitted. We're just waiting, that's kind of how this process works. So, and of course with summer, things kind of get delayed sometimes. So, but you can see our objectives listed there. And so we're just waiting. So hopefully we'll hear something, hopefully for sure by next quarter, but we'll definitely let you know what we hear. But just wanted to let you know, we did submit it. Thanks again to all of you that submitted letters of support for us, and that and all of you that just gave general support. We appreciate it. So we'll let you know what happens. Again, we want to thank Jenny and the crew and Kansas Health Foundation for their support and helping us with the grant writer and helping us with that. It was very helpful. I'm now going to turn it over to Brittany Grother with the Kansas Department of Agriculture, and she's going to give us an update. And this is my shorthand notation of the grants. I know they have proper terms. I just call it the Farm to School and Farm to Food Bank grant, but I know there's better terms for them. But Brittany is going to share with us about those grants as well. So thanks, Brittany.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me today to join your town hall. My name is Brittany Grother, and I recently started as a grants coordinator with the Kansas Department of Agriculture's Division of Ag Marketing. So I've been asked to provide an update on 2 upcoming USDA cooperative agreement programs. So I'm happy to announce that the Kansas Department of Agriculture has been awarded a $2.5 million cooperative agreement under the USDA's Agricultural Marketing Services Local Food Purchase Assistant Cooperative Agreement Program. So those funds will be used to purchase and distribute Kansas grown and processed foods to underserved communities and families through Kansas through the state's existing distribution network of food banks. So that's through our 3 main food banks, Harvesters, Kansas Food Bank, and Second Harvest, and then their distribution networks to make sure we cover the whole state. So KDA will work with agricultural stakeholder groups to develop a network of producers, establish a tiered purchasing standard that gives preference to socially disadvantaged farmers to help expand their businesses, and ensure that food purchased by the grant is widely distributed across Kansas in rural and urban communities impacted by food insecurity. We are also in the process of developing an application for the USDA Agricultural Marketing Services Local Food for Schools Cooperative Agreement Program. This application deadline was previously last week, but has been extended to August 31st. The agency is facing challenges with determining a way to manage this grant from an administrative side in terms of fiscal and reporting, but we hope to continue to have conversations with the Kansas State Department of Education and our stakeholders about the feasibility of this opportunity. The Kansas Department of Agriculture is excited to partner with the USDA to promote economic opportunities for farmers and producers and increase access to locally sourced, fresh, healthy, and nutritious food in underserved communities. I will go ahead and put my email address in the chat as well. We are just in the beginning stages of the local food purchase agreement or purchase assistant grant, but we are going to have a website as well for that. And we hope to have an application for producers here in early fall, as well as some education and training sessions. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Brittany. That's great. And congratulations on getting that. And again, I apologize that I lost the name, but the first grant that you mentioned, congratulations.
Thank you. There's so many acronyms that it'd be nice if they use some more letters in the alphabet.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So yes, that is wonderful. I think that's great news. And yes, and Brittany I'm sure she put her email in the chat. So if you have questions or want to reach out to her, you can. Again, we might have a little time at the end, but I want to make sure we open it up to if anybody else has any other grants they want to mention. You're welcome to do that. I will say too, really quickly, K-State, and I apologize, I didn't put a link in here, but K-State recently awarded Global Food Systems Initiative grants. And one of our colleagues did get a grant related to small scale meat processors in Kansas, assisting them. So I think that was great news as well. But if anybody else wants to share any, please feel free to do so.
Hey, Londa, this is Carrie Ebert. North Central SARE has grants coming up. They will release calls for proposals for partnership, farmer rancher, youth educator, and research and education pre-proposals. Those will be coming out early to mid-August. The calls for proposals. Deadlines will range from October through the first week of December.
Great. Thank you very much, Carrie. I know those are great sources of funds. I've personally been able to benefit from them many times. So thanks again, Carrie. Anyone else want to share anything related to grants?
Hi, this is Barb at the Department of Education, and I'm going to put a link to the press release that just came out. I hope some of you saw this. We did actually receive funding with our USDA Farm to School grant. And so this is 2022 funding to incorporate local flour into our school programs, working with Kansas Wheat as well as the local flour mills across the state of Kansas. And there's also 2 other Kansas awardees, then 2 with one of our childcare programs. El Dorado, the Quality Care Services is going to be working with Edible Gardens, and also the KC Farm to School on Gibbs Road. So great Kansas grants coming up here and opportunities.
Great, thank you. Wonderful. Good news all around there. Anyone else want to share anything related to grants?
Hey, Londa, this is Brian Gertzenrieger from the Kansas Rural Center. I dropped a note in the chat. I had to talk with staff from the Reinvestment Fund at the Rural Grocery Summit, and it sounds like hopefully they will have a fair bit more money this year for their HFFI grants, which I think are a little bit novel in that they allow some spending for capital or land purchasing, I think, in general, which is not something we see very often. So just a good one to check out. That is a round of letters of interest that you submit, and then they ask the people they want to submit a full application, but that should be, I think those letters are due sometime in December or January. It haven't been announced for this cycle yet, but just wanted to watch out for.
Great, thank you. I hate to, I see there's lots of things in the chat and I don't want to look at it because I don't want to show everybody's screen. So thanks for putting that in the chat, Ryan. I appreciate it. Anyone else want to share anything? This has been great so far. Thank you, everybody. All right. Well, we'll move on then to our brief announcements time. So if you have any local food systems related events, I know some of our partners have already mentioned some. which is great. I'll just kick us off with a few K-State research and extension, kind of local food systems related events that we have, and then I'll turn it over to anybody else. But so we have a FSMA, Food Safety Modernization Act, Produce Safety Alliance training coming up. It's remote delivery in September. I think it's the Tuesday and Wednesday right after Labor Day. I don't remember, 5th and 6th or 6th and 7th, I think. So that one you can do by Zoom, but I've been getting a few questions lately, probably more so on the Missouri side, but I want to just articulate it on the Kansas side too. We're happy to organize in-person trainings but the thing is, we just haven't been getting a lot of people registering lately for in-person trainings. So if you do have a group of growers, produce growers, fruit and vegetable growers who are interested in getting produce safety training, we can organize one. We're happy to do that. We can come to you at a time that works for you and a location that works for you. But just as if you can get like 8 people together, and then we can advertise it and open it up to more. But so if you do know of if you know of a group of 8 to 10 people in your area that would like that produce safety training, just let us know and we can organize a training in that area, at a time and date that works for them. So just let us know about that. We have another GAPS. We still have GAPS cost share funds available again for produce growers. And then we have a training coming up. I think it's August 24, but that's on our website. So just wanted to list that there. So we have our Urban Food System Symposium coming up in Kansas City in September. I know that some of you might not feel like you work in urban food systems. We had our Rural Grocery Initiative speaking earlier, but I feel like this conference is good for anybody working in food systems. We will be more focused on urban food systems, but the speakers are great. There's some great presentations. The keynotes are great. The invited speakers are really good. So again, I feel like it's not just relevant for urban food systems, but for all food systems. And it's in Kansas City, so it's not too far away. Travel scholarships are available thanks to the generosity of Carrie Ebert and Kansas SARE. And then also the North Central SARE, we have some travel scholarships. So it's $500. It'll cover the cost of your registration plus a little travel. So, just encourage you to think about attending, and you can still apply for a travel scholarship. K-State, this is fair season. So I know a lot of our K-State Extension folks are actually not on the call today because they're working at their county fair, but there's always lots of local K-State Extension things going on related to local food systems as well. Anybody else want to share any upcoming events or local food systems related initiatives that you want to share? And I think we have so I wanted to make sure we got through everything, but we can do those. And if you also have questions for any of the speakers, now's a great time to ask questions too of the speakers.
Hey, Londa, this is Emily Lyson with the Lawrence Farmers Market. We have National Farmers Market Week is coming up the second week of August for those of you around in that kind of region. That's August 7th through the 13th. And in partnership with our local K-State Research and Extension, they wrote, we have a triple up food bucks day. So in partnership, so for our SNAP benefit users, August 6th, August 9th, and August 11th, people can come to Douglas County and into Lawrence and get triple up food buck days. And we have a lot of really fun stuff happening around that whole National Farmers Market Week. So check out your local farmers market, see if they're involved. And if not, encourage them to get involved in National Farmers Market Week. There's just so much fun stuff you can do. And we're also partnering with Mother Earth News Fair and Farmers Market Coalition to promote our market around that week as well.
Great. Thanks, Emily. That sounds great. Yeah, triple up, boy, that can really, really help to buy watermelon and sweet corn and all those beautiful things that are coming this time of year. So that's great. Anybody else want to share any announcements that you have or ask questions of our speakers?
This is Erica from the Rural Grocery Initiative. I just wanted to share that so we have been hosting webinars once a month on rural grocery succession planning. And so the first half of that webinar series finished in May, and we're starting part 2 of that webinar series in August 18th. And this second half of that webinar series is really going to dig into different innovative grocery ownership models. So I just thought that might be something that folks on this call would be interested in. So I will put a link to that in the chat as well.
Great. Thanks, Erica. That does sound great. You know, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but I think we're so fortunate in Kansas to have the Rural Grocery Initiative. I know other states don't have quite the same support that Kansas does. So they're a great resource. Really appreciate that. Anybody else want to share any announcements or again, questions for our speakers?
This would be hi, my name's Logan. I'm with the Zero to Thrive Coalition out of Thrive Allen County. And I had a question for, I was about actually, Marilyn, I was going to bring up that whole investment, but I figured you were going to bring it up. But my question actually was for Tim Steffenmeyer, just about the K-State 105 project. I think that sounds really exciting. And I guess one of my questions was, outside of it being kind of an extension of the Kansas K-State Extension services and focus efforts in, communities across Kansas, I guess I was curious of how much of that work would be data collection as well to kind of understand potentially what our, shared issues are across communities. Would that maybe they can't be addressed locally only, and that there might be, a way for them to basically advocate for, because there are like those general larger problems that require maybe state or even federal intervention. So I was kind of curious if that had been a part of the conversation of, what you're going to be doing in those communities. Like obviously you want to connect them to improve their workforce development and help innovation. But if there are those issues where you see there's a barrier that could be, fixed at a state or federal level through policy, do you touch that, or do you gather information on that issue, or do you just kind of utilize the resources that are available and knowledge that's available to assist communities however you can there? So sorry, that was a lot of a question, but it's just kind of curious in the sense of, I think the goal and the mission of that work sounds really exciting, but to fully realize that, I think including advocacy in education could be really important.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Logan. First, I'll just note that we're actually spending the rest of the afternoon in a larger meeting about the kinds of efforts that you're talking about, and we have a grant that I think we're going to secure. It feels like we're close, and that grant does have a component of a kind of a statewide entrepreneurship effort to collect, I think, some of the data that you were describing that might be able to talk about larger barriers or places where collaboration is needed. So I think it's really important what you just described, and I'm not exactly sure what that's going to look like, but it definitely is a piece of the work.
Yeah, thank you so much. That it sounds really exciting. So it's cool. It'll be cool to see how that develops.
Thanks.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, Logan. Good question. Thanks, Tim, for your response. Anybody else? We have a few minutes left here. Again, announcements or questions for any of our speakers. Feel free to ask. There's probably others that have the same question. So. Okay, well, while you're thinking of your question or you're thinking of your announcement you want to make, I'll go ahead and just kind of wrap us up a little bit. But again, if you do have questions or announcements, please feel free to do so. Our recordings are going to be posted on our K-State local foods website. Let me see here. Okay, so evaluation, Erin put the link in the chat, or she will soon. We really do appreciate your feedback on potential speakers for next time, what we can do better. As I mentioned, we definitely take your feedback seriously and implement that into the next our next quarter's town hall. So please fill out that evaluation. We really appreciate that. let me see. So our next one will be on August, sorry, it's October, my goodness, October 26th at 11 a.m. will be our next quarterly town hall. And so you can register at that constant contact link there. Maybe Aaron could kindly put that in the chat too, but so, and we'll make sure that we send it out through our, the email channels that we have been as well. We really, again, welcome your feedback and really appreciate your participation. Glad so many people could join today. I know it's a busy time of year, so we really are glad that a lot of people could join. I think, yep, there's just my contact information. But I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing, and then I can see what's in the chat. But does anybody have any other last comments or questions before we sign off?
Hi, Londa. This is Tom Buller. I do just want to mention, because it is in the next quarter, but it's coming up shortly after that next quarterly town hall. The Kansas Rural Center is going to have our annual Food and Farm Conference on November 11th and 12th, and it's going to be on the campus of Kansas Wesleyan in Salina.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Great. Thank you so much. Aaron just put it in the chat, the link for the next event. And let me see, hopefully there's in the Qualtrics link that Aaron put in at 11:56 is the one for evaluation. And then great. Wow. I'll have to look at all these chats here. So thanks again, everybody. Really appreciate your time. Thanks for presenting. And again, if anybody has questions or comments afterwards, feel free. Wow, lots of great stuff here. So sorry, it's always the hard part when you are sharing your screen, you can't see the chats. We're looking at many opportunities for use of the kitchen. Okay, great. So again, if anybody has questions or comments for our speakers, please reach out to them. We'll go ahead and sign off since it's 11:59. I'm sure many of you have a meeting at 12 you have to get to. So thanks again for joining, and please fill out the evaluation so we can improve for next time. And you can register for the next one as well. So great, lots of good stuff going into the chat, job announcements and ideas and so on. So thanks everybody. Have a good rest of your day. Thanks.